Well, hey there, Streakers. Hopefully you are having a great Monday. This weekend has been pretty filled with different events that have been happening. We've traveled from Utah to Colorado. We're going to watch Megan get sworn in and her husband Mark as lawyers. We had the Trunk or Treat, which was an event that was music and dancing. I DJ'd that. And now today, Monday, is the actual swearing in. And I've been thinking a lot about having your streaks alive while you're traveling or doing different things and why that's important. I've also been working on the next draft of the Streaking book, which in it, I'm going to be featuring a few different streaks that have set up the whole streaking world and where it started and why it started and what it does to help and also sometimes hurt what you do in regards to self-improvement. All of that today on the Streaking Podcast. This is Jeff Downs. Let's start streaking. When you're traveling, there are so many different ways that you are bombarded with different events, different things that are happening, obstacles that might get in your way, other things that you didn't plan for. You're in a foreign place. You don't have all of your normal tools, which is why when we talk about streaking, you look at the streak and make it laughably simple. And in that laughably simple, what you're doing also is looking at the number of dependencies you have for that particular streak. The greater the number of dependencies or the bigger the dependency, the harder it is to keep that streak alive when you're on vacation, traveling, going about business that is in a different place than what you're usually in. What you then have to do is decide whether or not that streak is one that you absolutely want to keep alive. It plays into a theory of streaks in regards to lifetime streaks, time of life streaks, and seasonal or challenge streaks. Each one of those require a little bit different thought process because if you're in a lifetime streak or you want a streak that is lifetime, then the number of dependencies that you have are either low or easy to bring with you. For example, a lifetime streak that I have is to write at least one sentence for an article, book, or letter every day. The dependency to keep that streak alive is relatively low. I either need to have with me a pen and paper, just a pen. I can have with me my mobile device or my iPad or a computer. Any of those things that I can use, I can even borrow a pen in order to write at least one sentence that is for a book, article, or letter. So in other words, that one, to keep it alive for lifetime, the dependencies are really low, which makes it laughably simple to do. Now, if I have something, for example, I've heard some people have the streak of weigh myself every single day. Now that has a dependency of a scale, either borrowing a scale, knowing where a scale is, looking for a scale, or carrying one with you all the time. Talon and I had a conversation about this a little while ago, and he had this streak of weigh myself at least one time every day. And as he was traveling, I think he was going international, and he thought to himself, as he was preparing for this trip, he thought, okay, do I want to pack a scale with me? And is that something that I want to be, a person who's weighing himself all the time? And he decided that no, that was not who he wanted to be. He therefore went ahead and ended that streak or retired it and decided a different course of action. Because what was that streak truly pointing toward? Well, the streak was truly pointing toward maintaining a healthy lifestyle or being healthy and fit. And that's really where you're looking at as far as streaks is, are they in line with who you want to be? Jamie and I had a conversation about this a couple of podcasts back that was prompted by a streaker who said, the main thing that I love about streaking methodology is it is always deliberate, intentional, and pointed at who you want to be. When you're traveling, when you're on your way to a celebration, business trip, whatever it is, that's when you can really weigh the time of life streaks versus the lifetime streaks, ones that you lifetime are that you want to be there all the time. Now, time of life may also apply in the sense that for example, with my time of life streaks, reading with the boys. Now that's Jamie and I's streak that we share together, but that's a time of life streak that will come to an end. We will retire that streak once they've gotten to the place where they're out of the house now and we're no longer having them around and it's no longer necessary to read to them. Well, guess what? Then we retire that streak. The challenge streaks are one that I'm going to talk about later on. That's not one I'm going to focus on right now. That's actually one that we're going to set up in the app, and hopefully you're enjoying the new app. If you haven't downloaded the upgrade yet, go ahead and do that. Completely worth it. As I travel, I recognize also that streaks help me to plan. Because if it's a lifetime streak and I have dependencies, then I need to ensure that I have all the dependencies necessary in order to complete that streak. For example, read at least one paragraph in a nonfiction book every day. Now, who I want to be is someone who is always learning, and that streak supports that particular be statement. What I then need to have with me all the time is a nonfiction book. Typically, that's through my iPad. I'll have a nonfiction book with me. If, however, I have one that maybe I'm reading that's in hardcover or paperback, I'll need to ensure that I pack that so that I can keep the streak alive. That is still a lifetime streak that I have a dependency that's a little bit higher than packing a pen. However, when planning for it, then I know what it is I have with me and what I need to do in order to keep that streak alive. As you keep streaking, your planning will improve. And not only for the streaks, it will improve for every aspect of your life because you start to think differently. You start to think intentionally and deliberately about what it is I want to do. It's been so fun to be here at my daughter and son-in-law's swearing in, and that happens a little bit later on this afternoon. Just seeing their excitement and joy and happiness, and knowing that a couple of other streaks that I have helps me to stay connected to them. For example, one streak of connect with at least one child every day, and also contact at least one of my children every day. Having 7 children it gives me a lot of opportunity to connect with at least one of them. And the other thing that's great about it is planning for the dependency of what I need in order to connect with them. So whether that be an electronic device or whether it be we actually are visiting with and seeing them, I'm planning for those things in advance. As I've gone on down this road a little bit of looking at dependencies when traveling and then also planning for success, sometimes I think people ask, is it really worth the considered, deliberate effort to keep the streak alive? Is it really worth it? The unequivocal answer I give everyone is yes. When your streaks are aligned with who you want to be, keeping the streak alive is worth every plan, every deliberate, intentional activity that you do in order to keep it alive. It is 100% worth it. So as you go about your streaks, think about what are the ones that are lifetime, time of life. Again, we'll approach challenge later on, and the dependencies, and then what you need to do to plan to keep that streak alive, no matter what you're doing, where you are, or how you're doing it. Keep the streak alive, and it keeps you progressing toward who you want to be. As I mentioned, as I got going on this, I mentioned in the beginning about I'm working on the next manuscript, the draft of the manuscript, because there's several drafts that go to writing a book of the next streaking book. One of the streaks that I'm going to be highlighting and looking at is the Snapchat streak. So a little bit of a preview of what it is that I'm looking at. It's fascinating to me to hear the stories of teenagers that want to keep their Snapchat streak alive. Think about that for just a second. If you have a teenager, or if you are a teenager and you have Snapchat, you have a streak, you'll go to great lengths to keep that streak alive. In fact, I know of a story of a young man who wanted his parents, while he served a mission, to keep his Snapchat streak alive so that when he got back, it was unbroken. Now that's pretty drastic. And you may say to yourself, well, that's not really his streak, that's his parents' streak. Whatever the case may be, to have the intentionality and deliberateness to be able to plan for the opportunity for someone to keep your streak alive, That's pretty amazing. And the question is, why? What's the motivation behind it? This is one of the highlights that I'll be giving in the streaking book, is how a streak motivates an individual. Even in something as simple as a Snapchat streak. Why does it have value? What is it that causes the value for that particular person? And how can you translate that value of doing a Snapchat streak into something that's going to improve and significantly progress your life toward who you want to be? I don't know if a Snapchat streak does that. That's some of the research that I'm going to be doing. Maybe it does. Maybe there's someone out there that sees a significance to keeping a Snapchat streak alive. Interestingly, the reason why the Snapchat streak came about is the previous company, or the company that morphed into Snapchat, was called Peekaboo. And the whole idea was to capture memories in the moment. And then those memories would go away. In other words, you didn't necessarily retain them on your electronic device, whatever it was that you did. They had some momentum, however, not until they changed their name to Snapchat and then had the streak that they really gained significant notoriety among teenagers all over the world. To have this Snapchat feature be a streak and not to break the streak. Talk about retaining the number of users that you have. What we're looking at in streaking is taking that whole motivation, that ability to be able to take and be deliberate about what it is you're doing and translate it into actions and behaviors that you want for the rest of your life. That's where we are taking, or that's really what streaking is all about. And why you want to do it is there is a door inside of each one of us that when you unlock it, this consecutive door, it becomes a powerful motivation in your life. The question is how do you unlock it? How do you actually unlock that door? When was the moment that someone went from, this is kind of a nice streak to have in Snapchat, to, I've got to keep this thing alive? Where was it and why did it happen? Inside of each one of us, the neurons connect, the motivation, the dopamine hits, and that's when now we've got to keep this going. Which is why I believe that there's sometimes we mix a little bit of habit with streak, is because the dopamine, people tend to think that, well, now it's automatic. It's the thing that's driving me. It's the motivation. I'm doing it involuntarily without thinking. And that's not true. There are some things that you're doing involuntarily without thinking. However, the motivation of the streak is true motivation. It's not involuntary. It's not compelling you to get up and to walk or run at least a mile, or to read a paragraph, or to write at least a sentence, or to study a journal article or review a journal article weekly for your profession. The streak is something different. It has a different motivational element. And when you unlock it, you're able to use this methodology to be able to do so many important and wonderful things. Patience is part of it as well. All of this I'm putting in the manuscript of the new book, or the second edition, if you will, of the streaking book. Don't quite know if we're going to call it Streaking Second Edition or if it's going to be something a little bit different. We'll figure that out still. As you go along today, thinking about what it is you do and why you do it, remember, when your streaks align with who you want to be and they're the lifetime, you got to plan for them, know what dependencies you have, and that goes in the plan. And then finally, what is that motivation? And that's what we'll be studying and looking at. If you want to learn about streaking, we do have a book out right now called Streaking, Streaking. That is on the shelves at Amazon.com or at Barnes & Noble or anywhere books are sold. You can also download the Streaking app. That's via Google Play or the Apple App Store. And by the way, the new version is out there. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It has all kinds of neat upgrades to it. So go out there, purchase the app. Also, if you wouldn't mind leaving a review, letting us know, subscribing to the podcast, and letting your friends know. Share with them that you're streaking. Law number 3 in streaking is create a community or join one. I'll tell you, that is the other thing. One of the magic touches of Snapchat was involving friends. Again, I'll get into that in the book. But until we talk again, keep streaking.